So we've had mortgage survey,
Yeah.
and then there are different types of surveys as well, aren't there?
Yeah.
So what are the different types of surveys? Is there some that you should just not bother with? Is there some that you should recommend? What's kind of best practice?
So yeah, you've got your basic valuation report, which is often referred to as a level one. You've got level two, which is your home buyers survey.
What's a home buyers?
So this is where they'll go into a bit more, into a little bit more detail. I'm not a surveyor here, so I'm probably not the expert. We should go and grab someone from over the road. But they have a list, a big long list of property, or sort of areas of the property really. So electronics, this, that.
Roof,
Yeah, the other.
structural.
And what they're doing is they're taking a bit more of a detailed look into each of those aspects, and then they grade them. And a red, amber, green rating as well. Some of those stuff on that, some of those things on those reports always look horrendous when actually it's just we haven't actually checked. So a surveyor is not an electrician, so they will. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an electrical aspect of that report that's not amber, and it's just they haven't been able to check it.
And it says a bit like an advisory on your MOT.
Yeah, basically, exactly. It's saying we recommend that you get a qualified electrician to have a look at this this aspect. That's a home buyers report, and that's probably the most common one that we see.
And is that just to give that added little bit more peace of mind?
Yeah, because it's like you say, it's advisory, and it's telling people, okay, this might be something that you need to have a bit of a look at. I think it's not always popular with some estate agents when a client's having one of those reports, because they're like, okay, they might notice some things that and open some cans of worms, which will be resolved, but it's more work. But then ultimately, you might find that there's something significantly wrong with the property and want to walk away from the transaction. Let's say there's subsidence, and fine, okay, you spent a couple £100 on a report and you've walked away from the transaction. But better that you walk away from the transaction than be on the hook for paying £50,000 to get your house underpinned. So this is where those are, maybe a good thing to get done. Sometimes they'll just pick up some minor works that an agreement might be reached between the buyer and seller.
And most of the time, people might have already seen that anyway. They're aware that that's probably going to come.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's the biggest one that we probably see is damp and timber reports and things like that. And the amount of times we it's easy to sort, because we've all got a damp and timber specialist probably on speed dial who we know will go out and do the report for free, because they might pick up the work later if needs be. And actually, they're not a big deal to sort out an awful lot of these things. And if everyone wants the transaction to happen, it normally happens. Like I said though, if the house is falling down, you're probably going to want to walk away from it if you weren't expecting it. And then you've got a full structural survey, but we don't see a huge amount of them. That's a lot more in depth. That's
classed as level 3.
That's level 3, and you normally got a surveyor around the house for the best part of a day. Moving stuff round, having a proper detailed look at.
So what kind of properties are they generally on? Are they on your kind of really old listed kind of properties?
Yeah,
or?
they're more your older sort of properties, and I think that's where it is maybe a little bit more warranted, because you've especially an old property, you might have 300 or 400, the evolution of 300 or 400 years worth of building practices to deal with, and that's where you have got, you've always got a surveyor go around, but these people are qualified. This is their living, and their profession is all about finding fault. So you've basically got someone go around to a house
To purposely find something.
for a whole day to try and find out faults and things like that. And anyone who's lived in an old property can probably tell you why it's a good idea to have these things, because old properties all have their little quirks and things like that. Structural surveys sometimes they'll point you towards more of the quirks of the house than anything else.
And what's kind of the turnaround time for kind of each of these surveys?
They can normally get done within a couple of days. It depends a little bit on how busy the surveyors are.
And the access into the property.
Yeah, and being able to get in, because sometimes it's just, being able to get let into the property can take longer than anything else. And that's with all these things. If the market's going through a period where it's busy for a few weeks, it might add a week or so onto that turnaround. If it's really quiet, it might be quicker. So you probably find that now property market's very overwhelmingly positive at the start of this year. You probably find surveyors are a bit busier, whereas last year they might have been able to get you in the next day. This year you might have to wait a week or two for an appointment. But yeah, it still doesn't take very long to get done. And then they normally type that report up within 48 hours of having done the report. You should have it.
And then, as you say, if anything's flagged, that's then it goes back to solicitor, estate agent to kind of not hash it out, but have a discussion. And
yeah, and I would say hash it out is probably fairly appropriate, because it's a multiple way dialogue that you're going to be having, because sometimes there is an element of renegotiation. And I think possibly fairly rightly so, because we've been in the industry a long time, and we know that sometimes people try it on a little bit and they try to renegotiate for fairly spurious reasons.
yeah, something that's $2,000 to fix, they want 10 grand off.
Yeah, exactly right. I need a new fence panel and reducing the offer by 10,000 quid. It's like, yeah, I nearly swore then. No chance. Jog on. But with this, because it's a bit more real, there's something tangible, you often find that people's demeanour is a little bit more receptive to being sensible about it, because we have some sort of sensible document. But yeah, you know, I'd always say 9 times out of 10, as long as it's realistic, it tends to get sorted out anyway. But that's where a good estate agent comes into their own as well, because I think that's one of those things where people think, you know, selling a house is all about just stick it on Rightmove and my house will sell itself. Well, probably won't sell for as much money. But also, this is where an estate agent adds their value, is actually the amount of times a good estate agent has kept a transaction together over the years. A good estate agent working with a good mortgage advisor and a good solicitor as well. Those three working together have saved so many transactions over the year, and that's you know, shows the importance of choosing the right people at the start, because sometimes there'll be something an estate agent needs to smooth over, sometimes there'll be something a solicitor needs to smooth over, and there'll be sometimes something your mortgage advisor's got to smooth over as well. So just make sure you pick good ones.